everyone, and welcome to another podcast of Roots and Hoots, brought to you by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. I'm your host, Gordon Spence, and today my guest is Kirk Harper. Kirk is a singer, songwriter, and frontman for the Mosquitoz, a band he's been with for many years now. He currently lives in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Kirk has a beautiful young daughter named Willow. Kirk Harper and the Mosquitoz have been traveling extensively throughout Canada, playing to numerous audiences and functions. Welcome, Kirk, and welcome to Roots and Hoots. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing, Gord?
Very good. Very good.
Right on. Happy to hear from you.
Yes, it's good to have you on the podcast. It's been a while since we had a chat, and I always loved listening to your music. I had your CD somewhere, and CDs kind of seem to have gone out of style for some reason. Everything's being downloaded these days.
I think you had 3 or 4 of them there, Gordon.
I did, and I gave some of them away. People just love your music. So
that's
yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that they go missing and mysteriously disappear.
yeah. Because people like them. Start by telling us a bit about who you are and your family background, where you come from.
Well, I'm from Nelson House Cree Nation in northern Manitoba, Mosquitoz, and my mom was from South Indian Lake, Manitoba, and it's a fishing village about 2 hours north of Nelson House, and Nelson House is located about an hour north of Thompson. My dad's originally from Norway House, Manitoba, and I got roots in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I'm kind of all over the map when it comes to asking me where I'm from. So it's a big long story when I have to share. When people ask me where I'm from, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. So did you spend much time as a kid growing up? Did you spend much time on any of those reserves?
You know what? I actually grew up in foster care. So when I was 3 years old, I was taken away from my mom and dad. I didn't think I was going to get into this so quickly, but my community in South Indian Lake got flooded by Manitoba Hydro. And the reason Dad met my mom was because my dad was fishing in South Indian Lake. And so when they set up the dams and they flooded the land, Dad and my family, my uncle actually ran the fish camp over there. And they got flooded out, so everyone lost their jobs. And I was 3.5 years old, and my mom and dad came to Winnipeg, and a lot of things happened. I mean, they lost their livelihood and they lost their way of living pretty much. And so what happened was, so my mom and dad couldn't speak English very well because they grew up on the land living the traditional way of living, and they couldn't speak English. And when we got to Winnipeg, they lost me pretty much because, unfortunately, substance abuse got involved, and I was taken away when I was 3.5 years old.
I know that there was a lot of people that ended up in your type of situation. There was a lot of people migrating to the cities in the 60s, I guess. It must have started from the 50s, 60s, but more noticeable in the 60s and 70s, I think. Better opportunities, education, work, health reasons. And it must have been very challenging for people coming off the reserve who spoke very little English and try to adapt to a new way of life. I can imagine the difficulties they must have faced.
Yeah, no, totally. Because, my parents were very, very kind people. And they said, well, we're going to take your kid and give them a better life while you get your stuff together. But I mean, I didn't have to be taken away. But, they flooded our land, and they pretty much, said they don't care, and it really hurt, man. I had to live a life without my family pretty much, with strangers. Yeah, it sucked.
How many years did you spend in foster care?
So I was taken away when I was 3.5 years old. I guess pretty much up till I was 18. So that would be 14.5 years, 15.5 years. I'm not good at math. Yeah, so I spent my whole childhood in the foster care system.
During that whole time, it couldn't have been a very happy time being away from your family. I'm not even going to ask you that question because I know what it's like being removed from your family, and it's not a good feeling, and it's a constant struggle. During that time, were you able to communicate, or have any contact with your parents while you were in foster care?
I was in one foster family, so it was pretty much one of my first memories of being in foster care. I was about 4 years old, and so I was with this family for 5 or 6 months, and my brother Elijah Moose, he apparently he was born and he was in a foster home. They said, well, maybe we should put Kirk and Moose together. So I ended up moving in with him and the family that he was with, and that was in north end Winnipeg. So coming from the home to meet my brother, yeah, we ended up living in the north end of Winnipeg in the developments, also known as Little Chicago. So I came from a suburban neighborhood to chaos, pretty much what it came down to. Yeah. And I ended up being with my brother.
I understand also that there was a number of group homes in Winnipeg in the 70s for Aboriginal youth, I guess, such as yourself at the time. Were you in one of those group homes?
I was in numerous group homes. After the fact, I was 12 years old, and I realized that what was going on wasn't effective for me, and I didn't like the way I was being treated. So I was 12 or 13 years old, and I left the foster home I was in because I guess it might be systemic, but me and my brother weren't adopted, and we lived in a foster home. So we were growing up, and I was probably 11, 12 years old, and I saw my brother and myself in this home, young girl. My foster sister in front of us. And saying, you know what, this is not right. Like, I mean, I shouldn't even be here in the first place, and you're adopting out a young looking white kid. And so I started feeling racism at that moment, and it really, it really affected me because, I'm 12 years old, but I mean, I still have a mind. That's not right. And why would you hurt somebody like that, man? We've been with you for, 8, 9 years, but you never gave us the option to say, hey, can we adopt you? Can you be a part of our family? It felt more like you just wanted the money at the end of the month to take care of us. You don't have to take care of us. You got to love us, and I really, I was really hurt by that whole situation. So I ended up rebelling, and then I was getting into fights with my foster family. I ended up in group homes and receiving homes and getting bounced around. And so I really, I missed out on a lot of things. Yeah, it really hurt, man.
At what point did you eventually hook up back with your family?
When I moved out to the developments to go live with my brother Elijah, they call him Moose. He's kind of well known in Winnipeg. I just happened to be at the park, and my older sister Helma, her name is Helma, but we call her Roxy. Anyways, we were at the park, and her and my other sister Emily were at the park, and they said, hey, that kid over there looks exactly like our dad, George.
Yeah.
George Harper. Yeah. And so just by fluke, they came up to me and approached me and said, who's your dad? And I told them my foster dad's name, and his name was Randy. I said, my dad's Randy. Confusing time. I was just young. They go, I'm not sure about that. So they pushed it on me to go for a walk with them to my granny's house. And she just lived, a football field away from the park. And so I went for a walk, and sure enough, my mom and dad were there, and pretty much my whole family. A lot of my family was there, and I walked in, and they said, there's Kirk. There's Kirk Harper. Well, I was Kirk Moose, actually, at the time. I changed my name back to Harper. The other story about my name, so when I was taken away, they called me Kirk Moose. So when I was younger, I played hockey, and I was a pretty good hockey player. My foster family took pride in that, and that was one of the only things that they looked at me as like they're doing something good. And so I was a hockey player doing a hockey tournament in Warroad, Minnesota. what happened was the border guards typed up my name, and they realized there's no such name as Kirk Moose. And so what happened was they took my foster parents, who were white and a native guy, and they thought they were kidnapping me, pretty much is what happened. I remember it happening, and so we eventually got across the border, but then they told me, do you know that your last name's Harper? And I'm like, why would you tell me this now? I have my rebellious stage in my life. And after I found out that they didn't even know my name 9 years or however long I lived with them, I'm like, you know what? You didn't adopt me. You adopted a white girl in front of my face. You don't even know what my true name is. And that's pretty much when I said, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this situation. I don't want to be a part of this life with you people. I pretty much, right after that, I ended up getting around, learning a tough life, because I didn't want to put up with the people that were supposed to be there to watch me, that said, well, we're going to keep you safe, and we're going to take care of you, make a better life for you. But in reality, they're making my life a living hell, because they didn't take my mind as a human. They just put me as a product. And the situation that they said, we're going to make it better. We're going to make it better. But they didn't make it better. They made it worse. So I struggled for many years after that. So my name wasn't Kirk Moose. It was Kirk Harper. And it really hurt me. Like, why wouldn't you know my name?
Right.
And why would you say you're going to make things better? You didn't make things better. You made it worse. And I struggled with the thought of, and it was out of my hands. So I couldn't even say anything. What I had to do was fight and argue and say, you know what, this is horrible. It was tough, man.
So you eventually grew up out of there, and how did you end up leaving the foster home you were in?
I got into a lot of trouble because I was mad. I was angry. The only way I could get out of there was to fight and be a jerk. So I got into a lot of fights, and I got in trouble with the law. I was young, and I started hanging around with a rough crowd because, I was in the north end of Winnipeg, and I ended up rolling around with some of the meanest people in the province. I didn't want anything to do with the family because I realized that they didn't care about me. So I rebelled, and then I ended up in foster care, receiving homes and group homes. And then I learned to be even meaner because a lot of the boys that I lived with in the group homes and foster homes were, and the receiving homes were, kind of in the same boat. It was it was set up almost like, you know what, you learn to be meaner, through the people that you're around and you associate with. And I had no choice because I was really upset that people didn't even know my name, that took me away and said, we're going to take care of you. And they didn't take care of me. They made me meaner. I think it was designed to say, hey, there's some native boys and we'll create jobs, and that's pretty much how I felt. Yeah. And I don't want to glorify it that I'm lying or that I don't feel like that. I've been in certain situations where I was happy about things, but for the most part, I was really hurt. I grew up really bothered by what they did to us.
Growing up in the north end of Winnipeg, it's got to be one of the roughest neighborhoods in Canada, I think. I've had experiences there, and it's kind of scary. And also when you talk about group home you lived in and how tough that was and how you had to be tough, be mean, to survive, really. It's kind of a survival thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in residential school, and that's the kind of mentality there is there, A lot of fighting, there's a lot of bullying, and without much intervention by the supervisors. And you had to scrap your way to survive. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Did any of your family members attend residential school?
Yeah, my father attended residential school. Yeah, and he was a hard worker. So what happened was when he got most of his kids taken away, so he had a rough few years.
Yeah.
When his kids were taken away, and he couldn't speak English. Like I said, he was fluent Cree, but he was a really hard worker. What happened was that he got his life together enough for them to be able to say, well, he got his life together, but they found another reason, or just kept the kids in the system because they were making money. And I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth, because you know what? I have no connection to any of my family, and that's sad. You know what? Like, I have my brother Moose, who's my, the only person that I connect with, because he understands the same stuff we went through. I have a daughter, but I mean, I lost a lot of connections. I really lost a lot of stuff in my life. But so my dad went through residential school. He worked hard. He was one of the hardest workers that many people still talk about. They're like, you know what? Your dad was one of the hardest workers they ever met. It was hard looking at my dad and, going to the factory where he worked, because I mean, I was young and I would go and get $5 off him on my lunch break from school. And back in the day, $5 was a lot of money. I was really sad that I couldn't go home, because I knew my dad was a good man.
Why don't we talk a little bit about your music? And you're a singer, you're a songwriter, and you've survived that whole foster care thing, the group home thing, and you're a survivor for sure. You've come out of it relatively well, I guess. In my opinion, I've known you for a number of years now, and you're a tremendous guy, and I've always enjoyed being around you. And
I appreciate that, Gordon.
When did you first discover you had a talent for singing? And talk a little bit about where this all began for you.
Well, it started when I was really young, and it was my first foster home. The one I got taken out of in the suburbs. I was living with a white family, and they were very Christian. And I knew it wasn't my religion, but I was pretty much forced to go with them. We went to church. I remember the choir singing and doing beautiful music. I was a rough kid. I didn't know where I was, and I didn't want to be in Sunday school. Teachers couldn't handle me because I was a fast runner, and I'd take off. And they were like, okay, well, we're taking you to your foster family. You're going to go sit with them. So I sat in the pews in the church with them, and I'd get bored. And, I was, 3.5 years old, 4 years old, and I had a lot of energy. And so, bow your head to pray. So when they bowed their head to pray, I would duck down under the pews and crawl to the choir. And I would sit there because I loved the music. I loved when they sang. It sounded, it was my peace at the moment when I was a kid. And so I went week after week. And what happened was I sat on the corner. I sat in the same spot. And I didn't know the words that they were singing. But when the choir stood up to sing, I would stand up to sing too. I didn't know what I was singing, and I belted it out the best I could, and I tried to follow the verse and the notes. But I mean, I was a very young boy. So that's kind of the first memory of me knowing that music was a part of my life. Singing week after week, and I had bad dreams because the family was talking about, you're a bad person. Why would you tell a 3.5-year-old that he's a bad person? And scaring me with, you can't do things this way. And I'm like, I shouldn't even be here. I should be with my family. Why are you giving me a hard time and scaring a little boy into a tradition that I'm not even involved with? I toughed it out, and then I moved on, and I found my brother. And so that was one of my first memories of music.
Yeah.
Moved to North End, fought on the way to school and on the way back. you had to fight when you were in the North End. That's what it all came down to. I ended up growing up in the North End, Point Douglas. And after my rebellious stage, I started dabbling into art. Apparently, I was a good artist. I worked with a lot of charcoal work, and I created these pictures, and the teachers really took to that. Said, "Well, you know what? You're telling a story," and so I became somewhat of an artist through that medium, and so I ended up going to R.B. Russell High School, and I became involved with the theater program. And I remember Adam Beach, and I remember, Ryan Black when Dance Me Outside came out. At the same time, there was a music program, and it was going on by the bass player from the Guess Who, Bill Wallace. And so the theater was right beside music class. And so I finished doing my theater thing, and then I'd go outside and I'd hear this nice, beautiful music coming out of the music class. And what happened was I could sing, I could do that, And so I started going to karaoke and, learning songs and mimicking and trying my best to sound like the artist that I was singing for.
Who were some of your role models, positive influences in your life growing up?
Well, I guess, like I said, Adam Beach and Ryan Black. There was a lot of people. So, like I said, I was in the theater and I was into the acting, and Doug Nipenak was a writer. He passed on from cancer issues. Like Tina Keeper, like I was in a theater group with, I think I actually worked with some of the best Aboriginal artists in Manitoba at the time, and then still at this time, because I'm still dabbling in with projects that I want to get going on.
When I was in Winnipeg in the late 70s, there were a group of people out of the Friendship Center who were talking about starting a theater group. And I believe they got it off the ground, so that must have been the one that you got involved in. The title of your last album, When the Wolves Cry, that is an awesome CD, and I really loved listening to your music, the songs of that album. And how was that experience? I understand you wrote most of those songs on that CD, that album?
Yeah, I wrote most of the lyrics, and then I wrote... I came up with the melodies, but I was working with the Mosquitoz, and Darren Anderson played the guitar, and we sat in Peguis, Manitoba, and we worked on the tunes together, and we figured everything out. I was living in Toronto before we finished the album, because we did half the songs. We did half the songs before I left Winnipeg. I went to Toronto for 6 months, and then my dad got sick, and I came back, and I'm like, I'm here, like, let's finish it up, and we all agreed to get it done. So it was an 8-song CD, and yeah, so that's pretty much where it came from. When the Wolves Cry album, 5 songs on the National Aboriginal Countdown came into number 1, and I think there was 2 songs that came to 2 and 3. So I mean, out of 8 songs, I think that's a something to brag about.
Sure, yeah. It's an excellent album, and I always listen to it. I was really surprised that he didn't get a Grammy for it, or one of those, what do they call them, the Junos? I was expecting to see you guys on that stage, and I was kind of shocked when other groups went ahead of you. But in any case, that's their mistake. So
it's politics in my mind. I know there's other things that are going to come in my life, and same with the Mosquitoz. I mean, we're just going to keep growing. Yeah, and things will find their place in the world.
What are your future plans? Are you still with the band, the Mosquitoz? Any plans for another album?
Right before COVID started, I think the world stopped, so I think I stopped with them for a bit. Yeah, reflecting, and getting back to my thoughts, because when you're on the road every week, it's always something else that you have to think about, and not, think about yourself. So I don't want to sound mean or rude or anything, but it gave me a good time to stop and think about what's going on in my life, what I want to do next, because I want to start a business, but I want to do the music because it's part of my soul, and I need to keep that up. But I have a daughter. I gotta, think about her future when she gets old enough to legacy. I guess I need to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm starting a business, and because of the COVID, I can't dabble into what I was actually going to do because we don't know what the norm is yet. And so my advisor pretty much told me, just, let's sit on it 6 months to a year.
Yep.
So it gives me a lot of time to think.
Yeah, this COVID virus has really changed everybody's life, and we kind of put things on pause for a while, and I'm sure it's going to give you some time to think about your life, and maybe some great songs will come out of you in the future, and I really look forward to that. The last part of the podcast of Roots and Hoots is the good part, meaning, something funny. Aboriginal people are always funny people, right? They're always telling jokes and always telling funny stories. And this is the last part of the podcast. And I'm wondering if you have, and I know for musicians, if you don't want to tell a joke, if you want to sing a song, a few bars, that's up to you too. So whatever you decide to do, Kurt, I want to thank you. I'm going to close it off. You can close it off with a song. I want to thank you for taking the time. You're a wonderful guy and a good friend. And you got a lot of talent. You got a God-given talent there. So just nourish that, and take the time you need to, to keep working on your song and your singing. I've been talking to Kirk Harper, a survivor of the Sixties Scoop era, who luckily found his way back to his roots and now resides in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Kirk is going to close off this podcast with one of his songs from his album CD with the Mosquitoz band, When the Wolves Cry. The song is titled Save Our Love. Thank you, Kirk.
I'm asleep at no time, dreaming of you. And in my subconscious, I hope I wake up yesterday. 'Cause that's when I held you, that's when I loved you, and tomorrow wouldn't let us slip away. Oh, I wanna hold on to you for a little while. 'Cause some thoughts are holding on and won't let me go. Hey, please don't wake me up. Hey, come on and save me. Come
Roots and Hoots is produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. For more podcasts like this, please visit our website at legacyofhope.ca.